This is mind-blowing, and this just happened. Alec Baldwin's manslaughter trial over the Rust shooting has been abruptly dismissed because of prosecutorial misconduct. Alec Baldwin dissolved into tears as the judge dismissed this case. He was beside himself, as was his wife, Hilaria. He couldn't believe that this case just ended the way it did. But we are going to tell you what happened. Jason, we are both lawyers. We rarely see what I would call here a Perry Mason moment in the courtroom.
Absolutely. We've seen throughout this trial that the prosecutor has made a series of mistakes, first bringing charges against Alec Baldwin that were based on a law that was not in effect at the time the alleged crime was committed. And here what we have is the prosecution and law enforcement generally simply failed to turn over certain evidence to Alec Baldwin's defense team in the lead up to the trial, and the judge found that they couldn't properly prepare the defense.
Let's get into it. So what happened was this. We've told you, obviously you know, that there was a live bullet that Alec fired and hit Helena Hutchins, killing her. That's why he is on trial. There was evidence that another actor had a bullet in his holster that was a live bullet. So that's as far as everyone knew. And then it came out today that there was other live ammunition that the police had collected, but the police were told that they should put that ammunition in a file that wasn't the official Rust file. And what happens in the pretrial motions, prosecutors have to turn over all of the evidence in the Rust trial to the defense so the defense can handle the case and prepare a defense. But all of this information about other ammunition that was apparently all over the set, it was not put in the proper file. And the police were told, don't put it in the proper file, meaning hide it from the defense. That's the only reason to do it. And so today, the judge, in the middle of the trial, they present the judge with a manila envelope.
Yes.
And they open the envelope.
She puts on blue surgical gloves, slices open the envelope, which it was until that point sealed with police tape, slices it open and pulls out live ammunition in court. An incredibly dramatic scene you just don't see. Back to the Perry Mason moment.
It is a Perry Mason moment.
Pulls out the ammunition and asks the prosecutors, what is this? And finds out it's live ammunition and ultimately dismisses the case on the spot with prejudice, so it cannot be refiled.
It's an absolutely jaw-dropping development to happen in the middle of a trial like this, because the judge, in ruling on this motion, said this goes to the fundamental fairness of the whole trial. Handing over potentially exculpatory evidence that helps a defense team prepare for trial is critical. And the judge said there is no way to right this wrong. That was the quote, other than dismissing this case with prejudice. So Alec Baldwin breaks down into tears. Hilaria Baldwin breaks down into tears. It's incredibly dramatic, incredibly rare for a case of this high profile in nature to have a dismissal on the third day of trial.
Absolutely. And remember, what was on the line here was 18 months in prison if Alec Baldwin had been convicted. And so, I got to tell you, one of the prosecutors in the case, in the middle of this hearing, resigned.
Yeah.
Literally resigned, because she said that what the authorities did here was just unethical and wrong. And quit.
And quit right there on the spot. It's really important to understand. I think we have to point out that the judge is not saying that had Baldwin had this evidence, it wouldn't have even necessarily made a difference in the case. It possibly would have, but it wouldn't necessarily. What the judge is saying that the prosecutorial misconduct is so grave that I can't let the trial go on, regardless of the factual evidence that's here. It's just such a monumental screw up. I can't even get my head around.
It is literally mind blowing that this happened. Although, I will say this, guys. I will say this. Maybe it's not so mind blowing, because I had been saying from the very beginning of this that this seemed like a BS prosecution, and it felt to me like the prosecutor in this case smelled publicity, and that they were going to get a celebrity, because think about it. Alec Baldwin is an actor, and he relied on being told that this was a cold gun, a gun that didn't have live ammunition. They had already convicted Hannah Gutierrez Reed, the armorer, because it was her job to make sure that there wasn't live ammo in the gun. And then they went after Baldwin. They tried prosecuting under a law that wasn't even in effect when the shooting occurred. And that's just Bush League basic law stuff. And they had to dismiss the case because of it. And then they go ahead and they refiled the case.
I have to tell you, Harvey, I haven't thought this through, but there could be major sanctions for the prosecution team and certainly for law enforcement if they know.
There could be state bar issues.
State bar issues. There might even be a potential crime here if they purposefully concealed evidence in an effort to dupe the jury and the defense into a verdict. I have to think through this more. But this is an enormous consequence.
This is as serious as it gets. And remember, this is intentional. That according to the police officer who testified, she was specifically told to take this ammunition, apparently put it in a manila folder, and then file it under a different case number than the Rust case. So they were trying to hide this information so it wouldn't go to the defense. So obviously they thought it was going to help the defense, and it didn't.
This was the prosecutor's first witness. This was one of their chief investigators they put up on that stand to lay out their case. And on cross-examination, Alex Spiro, the attorney for Alec Baldwin, just sort of slowly disassembles their case and starts pulling it apart. And all of a sudden, the evidence starts coming out. There's these other bullets, these other live ammo that the defense was not aware of.
But Jason, can you understand what an unforced error? Because I'm not sure exactly how this evidence would have impacted the case. The case is about whether Alec Baldwin should have checked the barrel of the gun that he was handed. It's really about him as an actor pointing the gun during the rehearsal. What did this have to do with that? Why not just hand it over?
I don't think we fully understand because it didn't come out in court. But Derek, there is no version of this where the police or the prosecutors didn't think this was somehow going to help the defense. Why else would they go through these shenanigans of putting that ammo in a different case file? Why would they do that other than the fact that they feared it was going to help Alec Baldwin in his defense?
They did say in defending themselves to the judge today prior to the ruling, they did say they didn't believe the evidence was exculpatory. They didn't believe it was relevant to the defense. Now, if you believe them,
if they didn't believe it was relevant to the defense, put it in the right case file.
Well, yes. So then you're right. Why the instruction?
Put
to
it in the right case file. Right. They didn't. So they obviously thought it was going to help Alec Baldwin. Listen, there was a thing in this case early on, and I think it was on NBC Nightly News, where they allowed cameras in when the police were talking about how they were constructing the case. I have never seen that in my career, where they allow cameras in for a strategy meeting. That's the day I started thinking, they're doing this to get publicity.
The job of the prosecutors is to represent the interest of the state itself, the state of New Mexico in this case, not to target people because they don't like them. And you just felt that. Alec Baldwin handled himself sort of poorly in this whole thing, right? In the immediate aftermath, he's coming out and doing press conferences, and he's bad-mouthing law enforcement and the prosecution.
But boy, did Alex Spiro do a good job.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, did he do a good job? I've been a lawyer 50 years.
Yeah.
Wow. And I don't remember seeing anything quite like this. This truly is like Perry Mason. Yeah. And, the judge dismissing this case, I got to say, prosecutors have a lot to answer for.
Hi, my name is Zach Ross, calling from Huntington Beach, California, and I'm just really out of words for this. It's just shocking that, the prosecutors would do something like this, really such a subject with so many eyes and so many people watching this, how they think, they could try to do something like this, hoping they could get away with it. So, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of answering they're going to have coming up very shortly.
Wow, I got to say, when you just looked at that video of Alec's wife standing up just in tears, hugging him, and, not believing that and that's Alex Spiro, by the way, in the right. He is the hero in this case for Alec Baldwin, for sure.
Sure is.
This is absolutely just an amazing, amazing scene. and I think prosecutors are going to have a lot to answer for.